Together, we're exploring the intersection of faith, biology, and the signals that shape how we heal.
You'll hear conversations about nervous system safety,
peptides, and cellular communication,
prayer, trust, and what it means to live aligned with design.
No hype,
no pressure,
just curiosity, relationship, and truth.
Welcome to Prayer N Peptides.
As you listen, notice what stirs you. Who comes to mind? Then, if you're willing, and only if you're willing, comment the word of the episode, rhythm. It supports the channel, enters you to win, and allows you to stay honest in dialogue in this space without the noise.
Before we begin, let's slow the moment down just enough to notice it. Take one breath, not to calm yourself, not to control anything, just to arrive. Most of us have been taught that stress is bad. It's something we want to stay away from, something to eliminate, something to overpower or get through, something that means we're doing life wrong. But stress isn't the enemy. Stress is information. Stress is activation. Stress is the body saying something matters here. It's time to pay attention. The problem isn't that we experience stress. The problem is that most of us never resolve it. We carry it forward from moment to moment, from season to season, from prayer to prayer. And eventually, the body starts holding what the mind keeps pushing past. Today isn't about removing stress from your life. It's about understanding what stress is asking for and how faith and biology meet in that request. The first question that comes to mind for me is, when you hear the word stress, what emotion comes up for you? Is it fear? Is it frustration? Is it guilt? Are you determined? When you hear the word stress, what happens to you?
For me, it's a noticing. It's and I may not feel that it's stressful, but my body feels it. So another thing that I have to be aware of how my day unfolds, or what I commit to, or did I get enough to eat? Because if I don't eat enough protein, it stresses out my body. And then it's 10 o'clock at night and I'm starving and I don't need to eat anything because I'm about to go to bed. But if I eat something, then that's going to stress out my body. And then that's a whole loop and all of the things. So stress for me can kind of feel a little bit like guilt that I didn't take the time to notice what I needed to notice. Or I feel guilty about not going to the gym because that's a stress on my body. I want to work out. I want to do the things. I want to put a healthy stressor on my body. But if I do, what's the cost? What do I have to do, or what do I have to give up to be able to go to the gym?
Yeah, I like that you said something about feeling guilty, because I can definitely feel that too. Like, stress kind of brings in that guilt as well. And I really truly like, Amy, when you said something about how stress is information, it's not the enemy. And I'm like, wow, like that perspective in itself is really cool. For me, when I feel stress, I feel anger. I get mad. I'm like, why is this happening? Or what is going on? Or something is stopping me from what I'm trying to accomplish. And that angers me. It gets me frustrated. I get annoyed. I get agitated. And then if I'm not careful, all of those things start to create a domino effect. And then if I'm at work and I'm stressed, then sometimes I may be a little short with the clients, or maybe I'm running around really fast in the salon and I accidentally bump into somebody, or I've had a really long day and I come home and my husband, he just wants to ask me about how my day is and have a meal. And I'm like, I don't even want to talk right now. I'm tired. I'm not even hungry. And so all of that anger then turns into guilt. What you were just saying, Anna, I start to feel the guilt because now that anger made me, I shouldn't say made me, I made the choice, but I start acting short. I start acting in ways that maybe I shouldn't have acted. I start saying things I shouldn't say, or my actions just don't align with what I want in that moment. And that is to be a little bit more mature. And so for me, stress is anger for me.
For me, stress is normal. That is a word I would probably say. Anna, you talk about how your pain level on a day-to-day can range, but typically on a good day, you're a 4. I would say on a good day stress level, I'm probably a 4. I have a pretty demanding job, and I also am a special needs mom. There's a lot of decisions I have to make on some of the decisions I make on a daily basis are pretty heavy. And people are waiting for me to make the decision. So a lot of times I cannot take a breath and pause like I've coached about doing. There's scenarios in my day to day where they need the answer and they need it now. And I have to own that decision. So for me, I feel like stress is so part of my life on a day to day that when things are quiet, I am almost more anxious because I'm waiting for the next thing to fall. Like, okay, things are too good right now. So let's just pause. Like we have a joke at my work that I'm like, oh, that's a level 3. That's going to happen because you said this. You just caused, like, if somebody talks about water, I'm like, okay, one of the buildings is going to get water in it. Like you just set us up for this. But I truly hear stress and I think normal. And I almost have anxiety when I don't have a little bit of stress.
Can we change your word of how you handle stress from normal to highly resilient?
We can try.
Okay. Because when you still get those stressful moments, it still creates that low level of stress that, like normal people, it would totally send them into a tailspin. But you are highly resilient when it comes to your stress because you've done the things to build up that muscle and to be able to handle that. Doesn't mean your body doesn't recognize it, which is why you need the rest, or why the anxiety and the heart flutters and the things happen with the Hashimoto's when it's like, hey, you're not doing the other things to take care of yourself, Miss Amy. So let's get this figured out. But I would challenge you to go from normal to highly resilient because stress still affects you. It's not normal like brushing your teeth or opening your eyes in the morning. There's still a cost. There is still a thing for you. So I recommend that.
I will definitely work on that. And you said it's about getting your tolerance, or my tolerance, maybe not getting mine, but we talk about that a lot. Actually, my boss and I. And a lot of times when somebody comes into a new role, that like a leadership role or whatnot, and there's like a very clear path of how many months and also years. And a lot of it, it's like them building up their resilience of it, or how much they can handle. And it starts to, like, they chill out a little bit. And I think because I've seen it so many times, it's like wash, rinse, repeat for me to make decisions. I can really handle a little bit more now than I probably could have years ago. So I will work on that word normal, though. I think that's a really good call out.
Because not all stress is created equal. I talked about it before. I could not handle Amy's job. I want to edify Amy because she can switch between all the plates that she is spinning seamlessly. Well, it feels seamless to the rest of us. It may not feel seamless to her all the time, but she can make those home decisions, work decisions, project decisions, all the things, and handle it all beautifully throughout her day in the pockets and spaces that she has, because she has built up that resilience. And like I said, I'd love to go to the gym, but it's a stress. I can't go 7 days a week. I can't teach. I used to teach 20 spin classes. I would ride at least, it was crazy. I would ride at least 60 miles or 20 miles in a 60-minute class. And I do that several times a day. So I built up the resilience for it, but it burned out my adrenals and just about killed me. So I do not highly recommend that, but I did what I had to do and push through it, which is what we've been talking about in these last 2 episodes. But some stress resolves naturally, like a deadline passes, or a project is completed, or we get out of Atlanta traffic, or we get to our destination, or a conflict ends. We talked about that in our last episode of how do we have hard conversations, and do we ruminate on it, and where do we set boundaries, and what do we do? And when that conflict naturally ends, that stress resolves, or a threat level leaves, right? So we live in a world that if we are not plugged in to the right things, we can get overly anxious and overwhelmed just watching the news. And then there's some stress that never completes, like being a mom of a special needs kid, being a spouse, being a wife to a man because they need all the help that they can get, being a kid to aging parents. What is that all like? There's just a low lingering stress, and it lives in your jaw. We talked about pulling your tongue off the roof of your mouth. I have to unclench my jaw. because I get really bad TMJ and I can't open my mouth all the way. And that's frustrating. It's part of my lupus inflammation and all that stuff, but I have to think about it, release my jaw because I don't grind my teeth, but I just bite down real hard. So it's in our shoulders, like Lauren was talking about, that she had to go to the chiropractor, and the chiropractor was like, yep, you need some work, because we hold all that tension and sometimes we don't feel it. And lots of times it's in our gut. And we just, you get that gut feeling, but sometimes our gut is off and doesn't support all the things that we want it to do to rest and digest. And that creates a stress. It's the constant feeling of being on and not taking the downtime to have no makeup on, to be hair in a ponytail, in the pajamas, in a dark room, and just rest. Sometimes we need that. Often we ask, why am I still anxious? Why does this still bother me? But let's ask a better question. So just like we reframed Amy's word, we're going to reframe the question. What stress was never allowed to finish its cycle? What am I holding on to and keeping open that I need to close? So the body doesn't forget what the mind minimizes. If stress is the activation, then the resolution is release. It's that calm feeling. It's that I don't need to think about this every 5 seconds kind of feeling. And without release, the system stays on high alert, which is that tiger syndrome of being chased. And our body's like, we're not in real danger. Danger, Will Robbins, danger. Like, that's not a thing. We're safe. But our body doesn't feel that. So spiritually, we do something similar. Like we move on too quickly. We don't resolve it. Forgive, but we don't forget. But do we actually forgive? And sometimes we give it to God and then go pick it back up and don't tell him we picked it back up. He already knows. Or we just kind of skip over things just to push through it and move through it and be like, I'm just going to trust again. And stress doesn't disappear because stress needs to go through the process and we don't need it to wait. Here's my question, ladies. What situations in your life feel way over, but your body hasn't caught up yet? What emotionally have you put to bed, but your body still feels it? Or when that name comes up or that picture, you're like, then I'll just think about it all and go down the spiral again.
I think for me, grief is always something that kind of comes up with this. Losing my dad at a very young age when I was a daddy's girl, that was really tough. And I remember a moment, and Amy, you were just talking about how like stress feels normal to you. There was a moment after my dad had passed away. I was going through a lot of different stuff, a lot of stress, just grieving my dad. I ended up moving back home to help my mom, and I was in a really bad relationship at the time. Just a lot of stuff was going on. I was driving down the interstate and I witnessed a really bad car accident happen in front of me. And normally that probably would have shaken me up. I probably would have maybe cried. I probably would have felt scared. And I pulled over and I just waited. I had no emotion. And that scared me big time. It was so scary because I'm like, why do I not feel anything right now? I couldn't cry. I couldn't feel shaken. And then I called 911. A bunch of people called 911. The police came and they came to the window and they wanted to hear, what I had witnessed. And I had to fill out all this paperwork, explaining what I witnessed. And I just did it. And then I went on with my day. And that was such an eye-opening moment because I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't dealt with some of the stuff that I need to deal with. And one of those things was grief. Another thing was, the relationship I was in. But also I had to grieve, like moving out of my own place, grieving my like freedom as I moved back in with my mom and try to help her in this next chapter without my dad. And my sister at that time had just brought home my niece. She was a preemie. And as we had my dad's funeral, she was literally coming home. She was in the hospital for 14 weeks. And so there was just a lot happening in my life. And that particular moment, there was a lot going on that my body just, like I thought I was handling everything, but my body was shutting down. And it wasn't until that moment that I realized that. And so I think about that a lot, especially as I go through a lot of stress or any time that I feel anything where I'm like completely disconnected. And so it could be as something as little as a conversation I had with a client. It could be a conversation I had with my husband. It could be I didn't wave at somebody and I should have waved at them. it's like these little bitty things that later on I get stuck in. Like you were saying something about getting stuck in a loop and changing your CD-ROM, Amy. I go through that too. And I have to really process those moments so that I can kind of get myself out of that funk so that I could start feeling feeling the things that I need to feel again to move forward. And so I feel like this happens to me all the time. I think that I'm over something and I'm handling my stress well, but really I'm not, because later on it shows up in another way, or it comes back later in another conversation and I'm triggered, and I'm triggered because of a situation that I never processed well. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense.
Completely makes sense. And I think that's what aligns right with my looping is it doesn't help also when you have, like, I heard you guys both say, like, you guys will talk it out and like have somebody to talk it out or write the letter or do all the things. I do that. But sometimes I haven't caught up to really where I should be. Like I've tried to convince myself or get myself out of the loop. And then I think I am, and I'm going along completely fine. And then boom, something will trigger that. And it can really start the spiral again where I thought I was okay, but I obviously had not really gotten all the way through it. There's a specific thing in my life right now that I am really challenging myself to get through and process. And it's been time and there's been distance, but I still can be triggered by it. Like Anna talked about, a picture or a sound or something somebody says can bring back that memory and bring back that moment of stress and that fight or flight kind of feeling for me. And then it can go back into the loop. And I think a lot of times we push ourselves to be over a moment before we're ready. And when we do that, I feel that I tend to have an issue a lot longer because I didn't give myself permission. And I think a lot of times in my life, giving myself permission to do different things is what stops me, because I don't always allow myself to say, you know what, Amy, this is okay to do this. Pause. Or Amy, it's okay to feel this way. Or Amy, you're allowed to have XYZ. So I think that's something that I've been really working on the last year, because there's things that have happened in the last year of my life that have really been triggers. And I don't think that my body's ready to release them yet.
So let me ask you both a question. I think I already know the answer because it's who I am and you're both really good friends and I think we think similar. So when it comes to feeling that stress and that disappointment, is it on the physical thing that happened or the event that occurred, or is it more tied to the person, the other people involved?
I think for me, it's the people involved, but I think it's kind of all of it. I think it just depends on what is happening in that particular moment. I know for me, there are times where I'll be triggered and I get upset about something, or I make something way bigger than what it really is because of something that happened previously, but that doesn't mean it's happening now. It's just something like it's like a fear that comes over me, and I'm scared that is happening all over again, and I am blaming somebody for something that they didn't even do based on a past because somebody else hurt me before. And that fear carries over. And so I have to be really careful and that's again why I question myself so much all the time. I'm always processing. I will tell you, I have a friend of mine who is a massage therapist, and she is wonderful. And she has done, we call it massage therapy basically, because what she has learned is it's called fascia massage. And what she explains, and it sounds a little woo woo, like, okay, Lauren, but it really works. She barely massages me at all. And like there are emotions that get stuck in our body. And so like I might be hurting in my shoulder and she can barely like touch my shoulder and massage it. And all of a sudden, like, she'll tell me, I want you to focus on whatever is coming to your mind. So as we massage, as we go through this, just think about what it comes to forefront to your mind. And a lot of those times, there'll be situations that'll just pop in my brain as she's like working on my shoulders or working on my feet. And a lot of times, those moments are things that I'm still having to process. They're stuck. And so these emotions that come out of nowhere, like I'll just be upset about something or I'll be hurting. And all of a sudden she's working like my neck and all of a sudden I'm like, feel sad. I'm like, why am I sad right now? And so there is connections. And if you don't process it, we do hold on to it. And it's just weird how we hold on to it. And then something triggers you and all of a sudden you act out. And for me, I act out of fear. I'm afraid that somebody's going to hurt me the same way I got hurt before. And now I'm blaming somebody for something they didn't even do.
I think for me, I'm the same. It's the person. And a lot of times it'll be because of unresolved feelings or how things, if somebody was hurt, because like I've said, it's never been my intention to ever hurt anyone. I think it's the pressure too of just where it's at. And Lauren, I'm going to have to look into that massage because that's pretty interesting. And I think it really will activate things in your body that you're not even aware are even going on.
Think when we really do take that time to pause and relax and we're able to be like, for me, being in a massage room, there's nobody around me. It's quiet. I'm able to I'm trying to relax. I'm not always very good at relaxing. My massage therapist has made that very clear several times. But when I can relax and I'm trying to focus on my relaxation and I'm trying to for me in that moment, I'm bringing my faith into it. I'm praying. I am asking God to relieve and release anything that I need to release. A lot of times I am asking for forgiveness in these moments. I am asking for guidance. And through these prayers, that's when certain things will come up and little moments will happen. And I'm thinking, and I'm having this conversation with God, and I'm like, well, why did this come up? This happened 10 years ago. Why am I just now thinking about this? And it's strange and it's weird in the beginning because you're like, why? But then when you do that and you practice it regularly, you're like, okay, this is something I do need to process. This is something that is lingering. I thought I have resolved it, but clearly I haven't. It's still bothering me. This comment that this one person said still bothers me. And I feel insecure about it. And why do I let this one comment make me feel this way? And why do I feel insecure about it? And is it because of the position this person had? Or is it because if they think of me a certain way? I have to go through and ask these questions. And sometimes it's things that I did. Maybe I should not have said that one thing. And then I stew on it forever. And I'm like, I feel horrible. Should I call them and apologize? And I'm like, well, that was 10 years ago. They probably don't even remember that I said it. But it's replaying in my brain. There's this one time, I'll tell you this real quick story. My grandmother came over from Buffalo, New York. She's came down to visit in Atlanta, Italian, and she is hand washing dishes in her kitchen. And as she's washing it with the soap, and she's putting it in the little drainer, and then she moves it and she puts it in our dishwasher so our dishwasher can wash the dishes. She was doing it to be helpful. I think she was just trying to find something to do. And here I am as a teenager being a complete brat. And I'm like, Grandma, you don't have to wash those. That's what the dishwasher's for. And she looked at me and gave me the Italian look, I cannot believe you just said that to me. And I walked away. And to this day, I still think about how I was a brat to my grandmother and said that to her. And I'm like, she probably never even thought twice about it. But here I am, asking God to forgive me. And she's in heaven and I can't have a conversation with her about it, but I still think about stuff like that. It's just silly, but it's still there. And so these are the little examples that I have that come into my brain. And I'm like, okay, I need to process that. And then I start asking myself the questions and why is it bothering me? And why is it letting me feel this way? Does that make sense? Is that weird? So I think that a lot of times the way that we feel about these things is just our stress hormones. Our stress, is just taken over, and that's cortisol. Basically, cortisol is often called the stress hormone. But that name is a little bit misleading because cortisol actually isn't harmful. It's helpful. Cortisol mobilizes energy. It sharpens our focus. It prepares the body to respond. And the problem isn't a cortisol release. The problem is cortisol without resolution. And biologically, stress follows a cycle. We have activation, we have response, we have completion, and then we actually have the rest. We're able to chill out. But most modern stress never actually completes. There's activation, think about emails and pressure. Amy, you said something about the pressure, conflict, and then there's a response. We're thinking, we're worrying, we're pushing through. And then there's no physical completion of any of this. There's no movement, there's no discharge, there's no settling. And so this cortisol just stays elevated. And the nervous system stays vigilant, and the body lives in this low state of threats. And that's never a fun place to be in. And that's not because you're anxious. It's because your body is not finished. It's because you haven't processed any of the stuff that you should have processed or you should have resolved. And so there was this class that I went through at one time. It was called Trauma Resolution. In this trauma resolution, it was like a certification that I went through for a ministry that I was part of. It really taught you how to resolve trauma and how to process that. And there is actually a whole system to help you process and help you resolve trauma. But if you don't resolve it, it shows up in weird spots. So where in your body do you feel stress most consistently? I know for me, when I'm stressed out, I feel it 100% in my shoulders and my neck. And I hurt so bad, and it just goes into my ear, goes up into my head. I get these horrible migraines. Sometimes it goes down my back into my sciatic, and then my feet hurt and I can't walk or I have a hard time getting up. So for me, stress happens there. What about for you guys?
I think for me, the stress comes in my chest if it's really a high stress. And then if I'm just carrying other types of mid stress, it's in my shoulders. It's just as heavy. And I also could probably say sometimes, I don't know if you can relate to this, but my mind almost feels heavy. And so when I hear stress and I think about it, and I really focus on when I know I need to listen to the signs and signals, it's when it's right here.
For me, it shows up in my joints, every single joint. So first in my hands and my knees and my ankles and my feet. And then if it's really bad, then it shows up in my hips and my shoulders. And I'm a side sleeper, and that just makes it miserable. And I feel like rolling over in the middle of the night is just exhausting, and the blanket is heavy or the sheet is really heavy just because I can't grasp it. And then that stresses me out, and it's just kind of this vicious circle. And one of the things that I learned, and I do, even though it feels uncomfortable when I'm kind of in that stress state, but if something happens, like someone slams on the brakes in the car in front of me, it does an adrenaline dump, and I feel it it's an immediate feeling. Most people will get tingly hands, or they'll catch their breath or whatever. I start to feel it. So I have to shake like a dog does when they get startled. Have you noticed how your dogs get up and they do this? They do a little shake. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you just missed me doing the shakes. So, but that's how they dispel energy. Right. So they process things in deer, like all of the prey animals. That's how they dispel extra energy. And we as a human race don't do that enough. So I try to do that when I get startled, because living in fight or flight, there was a long time that I couldn't get out of it. And I had to quit watching scary or suspenseful things on TV because it would send me into an episode. That's not stressful. I'm sitting on the couch watching TV, and I can't watch, the Winchester brothers. It was terrible. I hated it. I got season 14 and I had to stop. I'm seriously? No, go ahead.
No, I was
I'm
just going to say
sorry.
that saying about the shaking, because I think about my son, Dominic, with stimming. So with autism, they stim sometimes when they're excited. It's sometimes when they're, anxious, but the stim is, for him, it could be shaking or a flapping. There's multiple different stems, but for my son, that is even the repetition of reciting the same thing over and over and over. But it's interesting that you say that that's one way that you reset yourself. And I didn't mean to cut you off, Lauren and Anna, but it really made me relate to that and think about how he handles some of that.
Yeah, it's just kind of an excess of energy. If you're anxious about a phone call or an email that you're waiting to get back, sometimes you'll have a nervous bounce in your knee, like your foot will be going, or you'll be tapping something, or you can't sit still and you got to fidget. That's all your nervous system just trying to regulate and get off some of the extra energy that it doesn't need to be carrying around. So do that often.
Many of us were taught that faith should override stress. If we trusted God more, you wouldn't feel this way. If your faith was stronger, your body would calm down. But the body doesn't respond to concepts, it responds to experience. Telling someone just trust God doesn't calm a nervous system that still feels unsafe. I remember when my son was going through his diagnosis, people always just said, God has you. Trust God. He has a plan. God doesn't give children to people that can't handle it. Trust him. That was easier said than done. Trust isn't an idea. It's a felt sense. And faith was never meant to bypass the body, and it was meant to move through it. Even Jesus didn't bypass stress. He withdrew. He wept. He prayed. Faith that ignores the body often leaves stress unresolved, not because God isn't trustworthy. I always trusted God. I knew God had a plan for me as a mother, as a wife, as an individual. But at the time, sometimes it was hard to see his plan, and the journey was scary. But I knew that God was with me. But I also knew that my body still needs completion and understanding. When I think about it, I challenge both of you to think about this too. What happens in your body when you hear me say something like, just trust God?
It is one of those things that's easier said than done, especially when you are in what feels like a dark place for a really long time. And the darkness is perceived or manifested through thought that, we all have conversations in our head and they're not actually the actual conversation. The other person didn't actually say that. And our brain is really good at filling in the pieces where it feels like it should. And we have a negative bias that we just it's easier to say, oh, well, they didn't like me, or, it's just going to be bad, or it's just going to, it's easy to fill in the blank with things that aren't true. And we know they're not true. So we need to kind of do that reset of, I knew that there was something off with my health. And I know that God gave me this for a reason. And I learned that early on because He gave me the hope that I could be a hope to someone else, to have the conversation for people that don't feel heard or understood when they have this, because we don't look sick on the outside. My numbers, my labs don't reflect the vibrant, awake person that you see in front of you, because most everybody else is on the couch. They're not living life. They've resigned. They're lethargic because they have chronic fatigue. I could either choose to live in that, or I could trust God. And it's a daily thing. It's a daily surrender of how do I do this? And some days I try to do it my own and fail miserably. And we get back into the rhythm of, okay, how do I surrender? What do I need to do to not do this on my own? And it's something that I've struggled with, and not where definitely I'm not today where I started, but I'm not where I'm going to be in 10 or 20 years either with my faith and trusting with this every single day. It's a struggle. It is.
Yeah, I can definitely say it is a struggle and it is really hard. And, just trusting God, what does that even look like? How do you just trust, right? We had a situation a couple years ago. I say we had a situation. Peyton was at work and he got really fed up with some stuff at work and he flat out quit. This was not a conversation that he had with his wife. We did not talk about this. He just was very upset with how some things were happening. He didn't want to be a part of it and he quit his job, and he came home that day and he told me. And I was like, oh my God. And what are we going to do? Now, honestly, after hearing his side of the story, and he is my husband, it was hard to be supportive in that moment, but I love him and I wanted to be supportive. I wanted to be understanding. I do understand what he felt in that moment, but I also was very angry because I'm like, how do you just quit your job like that? We have bills to pay and you just left, and now I'm just hanging. I'm the only one with a job right now. And I had to give it to God. I had to just trust God. Now, fast forward, at the time, we were living in Atlanta. We were living an hour away from where my family is. And I was upset and angry. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ask God to make this better. Like, we need to figure this out. He went through interviews, couldn't find a job. The one position that he wanted, the only position he wanted, he is a golf pro. He's part of the PGA. And the only thing he wants to do is teach other people how to play golf. There was one position available for him to be a teaching pro in the town where I was raised, where my family lives. And so he took that he went for that interview, he got the job, and we moved back to where my family is. And it brought us closer to my mom, closer to my sister, my niece, closer to his dad. We have a beautiful home. I'm closer to work. I don't have to make like an hour commute anymore. And everything felt better. But I had to trust in that moment. And I had to act accordingly to God's will, like be angry at him. I wanted to be angry at my husband, and I was, but I also had to support him. Like, I'm his spouse, and what he was feeling was justified, and I totally get it. And I had to really, truly just trust God in that moment. And he really did make it wonderful. And I was like, thank you. And every day I am so grateful to be where I am. Like, I am so happy that I'm closer to my mom. I'm so happy that I get to see my niece. I could go pick her up and take her for dinner if I want to, anytime I want. I love being closer to Peyton's dad. We are able to do more family stuff. I don't have to be in a car and commute for an hour every day and an hour home and be in rush hour traffic. That opened up time for me to be able to work out and take care of my health. And I've been able to like meal prep and actually eat at normal times because I'm right down the street. Like, everything became good. And it was just because I had to trust in God. But like, hearing someone say, oh, just trust in God, it feels kind of passive, right? It feels kind of like you're not understanding what I'm going through. This is very difficult. But really, when you put your faith into action, some beautiful things really can come out of it.
This video and this episode is brought to you by you. Yes, you. Seriously, thank you for liking, subscribing, and dropping those beautiful, thoughtful comments. Every single one helps spread the mission. So if you're loving what you're hearing, come hang out with us over on Instagram. That's where we take each episode even further with weekly action steps, deep discussions, and some behind-the-scenes action. So follow us over on Instagram at Prayer N Peptides. And now back to the episode.
Prayer isn't just communication. It's a regulation. When prayer includes breath, posture, movement, even stillness, it gives stress a place to go. And prayer becomes like this space where activation is acknowledged, emotion is allowed, and the body is permitted to settle. Completion doesn't mean that the problem just completely disappears. It means that the body receives the message and that you are safe enough right now. I mean, that's the goal, right? You want to feel safe. That's the covenant. Not that life will be stress-free, because it's never going to be stress-free. We're always going to have something that we have to deal with. But that stress doesn't have to stay trapped inside. There is a way to process the stress. We can handle the stress. We can respond to it. We can listen to it. And we can let it flow through us. And we can let some beautiful things happen because of it. And so prayer is what I think completes this urgency that this urgency interrupts. You know, you can give your stress to God. You can ask him to, very much like when I heard that my husband lost his job. I really had to be fearfully in prayer. Like, is that what I'm trying to say? Fearfully in prayer. That's not what I'm trying to say. I just had to be very faithful in my prayer. And I had to be faithful in that God was going to make it right and he was going to make it good. So how has prayer been framed for you? Is it more of like a mental type thing, or is it just embodied?
I would say prayer for me is more of a mental, and probably because I only allow it mentally. I think it's been framed multiple ways, but then the way I allow myself to receive it or even be at peace, I would say it's more mental. I've been challenged multiple times to meditate and get into a deeper space. And because of the other things in my life, I struggle to shut it down. and really embody everything, feel it, own it. So a lot of times mine end up mental because I still have barriers up.
Mine is a little more embodied. I think that part of that has been with practice of like, I just don't want to be in pain anymore. Like, can you take this for a while? And again, for me, it's my spirituality has been relationship focused. And I really do like, I can go to God and be like, don't want to do this. Can I take a nap and have a snack? I'm going to curl up here on your lap and you handle the rest. And then you let me know how I need to feel about it and how I need to respond. Right. We talked about that earlier of like, because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be sassy pants and like, I'm sassy when I got on my tight britches, and sometimes they're a little too tight. So I need to, what is it from Steel Magnolias? He's so wound up, he doesn't know whether to scratch his watch or wind his butt. Like sometimes we can get into that, and it's like we can't decide which way is up and which way is north and what the next step is. So we need to take the pause, and prayer does that for me. I think in a very visceral way because I treat it like a conversation. It's not a well, here's my wish list or do this for me. It's a, hey, this is where I'm at today and I'm just talking about it and this is where I'm struggling. Can you give me a piece that I don't understand, which is most of the time. And it just kind of takes the edge off for me. And I know that that is kind of that embodiment of prayer of it's a conversation. It's like a call and response, right? And if I'm not quiet enough, if my life is too noisy, I can't hear the whisper. So I'm always taking that moment of like, hey, I'm open and receptive. Like, help me clear out the noise. Like, help me hear you better. Show me what you want to show me.
Yeah, I think I do a lot of that in my prayer as well. A lot of times I'll ask God to take over my words, especially when I'm at the salon and I'm hearing something or someone's really opening up to me and I'm like, do I respond? Do I just listen? And if I do respond, like I need to be careful what I say. I want it to be helpful. I don't want it just to be noise. I don't want to be just another person in this person's ear. And so a lot of times I'll ask God to like join me there, be like, okay, God, I really need you right now. Like, what do I say? What do I do? Do I just let this be? Do I move forward? And sometimes I don't get the answer right away. And so then I'm like, okay, well, if I didn't hear anything, I'm not going to say anything. And then later on, like in the appointment, I feel like, okay, I should say something, or something pops in my head, or I get this download and I'm like, okay, I need to ask her this one question, or I need to bring this to her attention. And I do. And then all of a sudden, like a whole nother conversation comes up and it goes in a totally different direction. And she actually will feel a little like peace out of everything. Or she's like, oh, that makes sense. Or like it brings about something. And it doesn't always happen and it's not always perfect. But when it does happen, I'm like, yes, thank you. I heard you right this time. And it makes the conversation so much better. And so for me, I think prayer is embodied. Like I really invite that. I want that. Sometimes I just need that because I can't do it on my own as perfectly as he can.
So this week, we're not eliminating stress. We're not tackling everything all at once and buttoning up everything. We're completing what still needs to be completed. Once a day, choose a simple ritual, a slow walk, a gentle stretch, maybe some deep diaphragmatic breathing. Maybe sit quietly on the floor or in your favorite chair, look out at the sun, get the sun on your face. As you do, name something that you are stressing out about that it's beyond you to fix, or the next step is beyond you. So ask for clarification. Let your body finish the sentence that your mind keeps interrupting. Just be still. No pressure, no perfection, maybe not even resolution, just completion of the next thought. So what completion process feels most accessible to you right now? What's the thing that you could do to close the loop?
Wow, to close the loop. I need to forgive myself. Yeah, forgive myself.
Walk us through those feelings. You got big feelings over there.
We talk about stress and I think about slowing down, and that's like not allowed. Not allowed by me, not by the ones around me. It's me putting that pressure on me. And because of the rate I go at things, right? The decisions I make, And I always try to make the best decision that I can. And I always know that. And when I wake up, I think about that. I'm going to do the best I can today with what is given to me. But when I know that something I have done may have caused hurt to somebody or something, I have difficulty forgiving myself, even when I know how I handled myself and maybe assumptions were made or things have happened. So for me, I will not forgive myself if I feel like I've let somebody down or had anybody have any pain. I will put the pain back on myself. And I'm also somebody else that believes in protection. If I can protect somebody else, or if I made a promise I'll always protect you, I will do it at all costs, even if it causes me pain. So that's where those things are. And giving myself forgiveness for sometimes doing the best I could in the moment that I had. And it may not be the choices that other people had.
Thank you for sharing that vulnerability. That was big. And if you did not watch that on YouTube, it just washed across her face of she feels really guilty about not forgiving herself. And it's something that I don't think anybody holds that guilt on you but yourself. And I just want to encourage you and thank you for being vulnerable because you're probably not the only person on the planet that struggles with that and feels that way on a daily basis. And I promise you are not letting anybody down. And those of us that are in your inner circle, we want to protect you too, because we don't want to let you down either. So that part is reciprocal. I know.
Yeah, Amy, I think that what you just shared is incredible. And I think that takes a lot of bravery to open up and share those things. And I just want you to know that I think you're an amazing person. And I know that you have a lot with your job. I know that with your at home. And I know that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we will never truly see or understand or know. And I think anybody that knows you, your deep down character, knows that you always want to make the best choices. And that's what your intentions are. That's what your motives are. And so I think that honestly, if anybody thinks otherwise, that is their problem. It's not yours because you are an amazing person. And I really have just gotten to know you not very long. I mean, I just met you like a year ago, and I think you're incredible. I think you're an inspiration. I think that you are making things happen on a day-to-day basis, and you inspire, encourage so many people. And I know that like compliments are hard to take and to receive, but I do want to affirm the fact that you like what we all deal with on a day-to-day basis. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and we're like, you know what, I am going to make bad choices today and I'm going to make the wrong one and I'm purposely going to hurt somebody. And nobody really, I mean, maybe there are people out there, but I know that you do not do that. I know that Anna does not do that. And I think that forgiveness is one of the hardest things, whether you're forgiving somebody else or you are forgiving yourself. But I think it's so important to remember when it comes to our faith that like God forgives, like He has forgiven us. And we can sit here all day long, and just cry it out with Him and talk to Him about it and give it to Him and let Him know you want to make this right. And how do you make this right? And I'm so sorry. And He's already hugging you. And He's like, I know, it's fine. I got you. You're good. We're going to make this good. Everything's going to be okay. And it is such a great reminder for all of us, including myself. Like, we are forgiven. We are loved. And, you're loved. And Anna, you're loved. And you're forgiven, Anna. And Amy, you're forgiven. And we all have this. It's right here at our fingertips. And it's all just like if we just go to Him and we just give it to Him and we have conversation with Him and we think about what's happening in our lives and how He can really make it good for us. And I love you so much. And I'm so sorry that you feel all those things, but you are an amazing person. And so I hope tonight, when you get off this call, you take some time for yourself tonight and you're like, have it out with God and you just release whatever it is that you need to release and you forgive yourself.
I appreciate that. And I think the thing that I've really learned is that I am able to forgive others very easily, no matter how much harm they do to me. But the one challenge for myself is forgiving myself. And that's something that I need to do. And it really is something that I struggle with. And I appreciate both of your kind words and just your support. And I know through my journey of this podcast is even a huge opening for me. I shared with a friend that I was doing a podcast, and he goes, you have to open up, right? And I was like, yeah. He said, you have to talk, right? About like your feelings and things that have happened in your life and things like that. And I said, yes. And he's like, but you don't do that. I go, I know. And so this is also a commitment to me and my journey is to be open. And I'm challenging myself every single time I come on here. I'm challenging myself to open up a little bit more. And because hopefully my story can help somebody, that we all don't have to be perfect. We don't all have to have all the answers, and allow ourselves forgiveness. Because really, if we really want to embody prayer, if we really want to reduce anxiety, that's what we have to do. And for me, it's where I go back to our peptides, right? Our peptides act as messengers. They carry information and they're not force. When stress completes, the nervous system shifts from vigilance to regulation. Anxiety softens, clarity improves, and the body remembers safety. Not because the stress disappeared, but because it resolved. Embodied prayer supports this shift by aligning biology with trust. My question for you, how does understanding biology change how you view anxiety?
That's a great question. And I don't know if we always think about it in that term of like, we know it's something biological that's happening, but like, how does it change how we support? Right. So are we getting the right messages that tell us that we can calm down and we can rest? And for me, there was probably 4 or 5 years that I was literally in fight or flight. Like my anxiety cup was so full. I'd blown out my adrenals. Like there was all kinds of repair work. There was all these things that needed to happen. And I didn't know what it was not like to be a nervous wreck all the time. And I'm a pretty confident, well-adjusted person, I think, or at least that's the way I was raised. And then this whole medical mystery thing happened and it just kind of turned things on my ear. So I am now, again, being aware of what's happening in my body and being aware of what's happening in my situation. And, like now, if we're driving and someone slams on the brake in front of us, Mark will do his best not to slam on the brakes, but he apologizes when he does because he knows what just happened in my body and that's going to come at a cost later. So when those things inevitably happen, because we can't completely avoid them, there's not a place to live stress-free. We can't live in that bubble. How do I give myself the right messengers and the signals to be able to get my cortisol levels back in the right flow during the day, and how to support things and how to take the mental space in prayer of like, hey, I release this day to you. Whatever I don't need to be carrying around, don't take it from me. I don't want to carry it anymore. So I'm going to let you solve the mental problems for me that I got to solve tomorrow. Help give me guidance and wisdom beyond my own understanding. Help me have conversations and words that are beyond myself and things that I don't know. Help me encourage and support somebody and see that, because sometimes I can get so caught up in my own pain and stress and anxiety in my own body, I will miss everybody else. And that's a sad thing for me. I don't want to be that way. That's not my intention ever.
Well, anybody that knows you, Anna, knows that about you. That is never your intention. You always have great intentions. And I think there is a direct link to what's happening in our body and anxiety. I think ever since I've started working with a naturopath, I've started to really learn this. I mean, there's all kinds of hormones in our body. There's, like our thyroid, there is, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. I mean, and our levels are constantly fluctuating. And those levels, just a slight change in that can cause a dip in your personality, a dip in your mood. It could cause anxiety. Even for men, I mean, even as men age, they drop testosterone. I mean, it happens across the board. And this is part of fighting this battle, is knowing what you're fighting. And so I think a lot of times we go throughout life and we're blaming ourselves for situations or we're anxious about something. And really, it's maybe not even that big of a deal. Maybe it's just like I'm low on thyroid or I'm low on progesterone or I ate something that made my blood sugar drop really bad. Like I made a bad choice maybe. So I do think that there is a connection between what's happening in our body and anxiety that we feel. And I think taking the steps to notice that, listen to that, realize that, and working with somebody that can help. Anna, you're like one of my greatest friends, and you have always helped me in this area. You're a nutritionist. You know this stuff so well. And years ago, I was really struggling. I was 50 pounds heavier than I am now. I felt swollen and inflamed. I felt horrible. I was not eating properly at work. And Anna, you helped me. You're like, okay, we got to get your metabolism working. You've got to eat every couple hours. I don't care what you eat, just eat every 2 or 3 hours. Let's give your body some fuel. Your body needs that. And like you just out of the kindness of your heart started helping me understand and learn how to support my body. But like I wasn't eating. It was making my cortisol levels crazy. And then that was making me gain weight. And once I was able to support it with the right fuel and some good foods, and then eventually, working with a naturopath, and we got me on the right supplements, and now I'm on these natural peptides, like things are just working a little bit better now. And I'm starting to actually feel the effects of it. I think that is huge, and just really understanding and learning where your safety net is. If you are not feeling good, if you're feeling like anxious all the time, if you're feeling sick all the time, if you're feeling this rush of fear, a lot of all of that can sometimes just be what is going on in your body. What are you giving to your body? What are you not giving to your body? Anna, you said something earlier about like minerals and, electrolytes, and that is super important, making sure your blood cells are completely hydrated. So I think that learning to feel safe again is part of our breakthrough. It's how we begin our breakthrough. And so for me, it was learning what I needed in my body to get me there. And I just needed a little bit extra support. So guys, if today resonates with you, this is your invitation to just stop fighting stress. Just stop and start teaching your body to feel safe again. We've shared some simple tools today designed to support your stress resolution. And we ask that you just try not to override it. You'll find them linked in the show notes below. And your breakthrough doesn't just start with force. It starts with feeling safe enough to finish the cycle.
If something in today's conversation stirred you, send it to the person who came to mind. That's how this message moves, person to person, and we can't do it without you. If you want to stay connected, go ahead and subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. All the resources and goodies are linked in the show notes, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you over on Instagram. Until next time, stay prayerful, stay curious, and keep listening to the signals. The content shared on Prayer N Peptides podcast is for educational, informational, and inspirational purposes only. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, nor is it a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Discussions around peptides, nervous system regulation, stress, sleep, hydration, and wellness are presented as general educational concepts and reflections on the body's design, not as medical recommendations. Always seek the advice of your physician, a licensed healthcare provider, or qualified medical professional regarding any medical condition, symptoms, medication, supplements, or health discussions. Never disregard or delay seeking professional medical advice because of something you heard on this podcast. The host and guests of Prayer N Peptides are not acting as medical providers. Any personal experiences or stories shared are anecdotal and not intended to imply guaranteed outcomes. Spiritual reflections, prayer, and scripture-informed insights are offered as relational and supportive practices, not as replacements for medical or mental health care. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own health decisions and that Prayer N Peptides assumes no liability for actions taken based on the information presented.